Good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock. At this time, I'd like to call the annual meeting to order, please. If you would, stand and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you'll remain standing for the invocation.
Okay, please.
I guess y'all noticed Bill's not here, so I'll be starting things off. Item 3 on the agenda is to consider approval of the meeting minutes for the November 28th, 2023 open meeting and executive session. We're actually going to not do that today. We're going to put that on our agenda for our next open meeting. That was a little aggressive of a goal to try to get those minutes done and posted and reviewed in time to vote by today, so we're going to go past that one. So that takes us to item 4. Jerry, would you like to introduce?
Yeah, sure will.
Thank you, sir.
Where's the on switch on this thing? All right, there we go. Sorry about my voice anyway, but I just appreciate y'all coming out here and joining us today. Sheriff Cole here's coming here to say a few words for us and just talk a little bit about what's going on in the county and maybe touch a little bit on just how your security department and the sheriff's office works together. And he's gracious enough to take a few questions when he's finished. So please join me in welcome Sheriff Kelly Cole.
Well, thank y'all. Yeah, that getting out there? Good. My voice has been coming and going too. Had some kind of cough for the last 3 weeks. You know, doctors can't tell you what none of that is. So, but thank y'all for having me out. Happy to be here. Anytime y'all need us for anything, you know, we're always there for you. Just like what he said a little bit, we'd gotten a few questions about how we work with security out here, and actually we work very well. They're really good about giving us a shout whenever we need something. Of course, they're your authority here on the ranch, your bylaws, everything. I've looked through several things they wanted me to look at, and the board sets these things up. I mean, they're in control. They're doing what they're supposed to do. I think somebody had said something, a question about them having the authority to make traffic stops here on the ranch. Well, they have authority to make traffic stops here on the ranch. That's in part of the bylaws. That's in part of the regulations and guidelines that y'all have out here. Y'all have all set that up years upon years ago. State recognizes them as certified security. They can carry a weapon with their licensing. They're in good shape. You've actually got good folks that are working for you, that are trying to make sure everything's done well. And in turn with that, we try to work with them with anything that they need. We've been out here many times on many different calls. I didn't bother to try to get a count before I come out, but we come out as often as we need to. We try to keep a deputy in the area. We work usually 5 deputies per shift, sometimes a couple extras in there, depending on sick time, vacation time, things of that nature that the officers take off. So we try to have someone in this area. We've gotten calls in the past, a little bit of excessive speeding, I guess, you know, out here on the main road. We try to send some folks down. We contact DPS and we let them know when that kind of thing's going on. So, you know, always feel free to give us a shout and let us know, you know, if you're having issues with something, whether it's outside of the ranch or inside the ranch. We're here to help you with whatever that is, and we want to help you with that. County's doing pretty good. They've purchased a building. I don't want to take anything away from Judge Parker. They're helping him, but you're going to get a new JP building down there, and we're hoping to have a small office in that so that we can maintain a presence down here a little bit better, a little more regular. That way the deputy's not having to go all the way back to Quitman every time to turn in paperwork or to take care of some reports or something of that nature. They'll be down here and able to respond a whole lot quicker. But I always find it's better to just somebody ask a question. and we can move forward from there, so that way we know exactly what's on your mind. So anybody got anything they'd like to ask about, or? Yes, sir.
When one of our officers stopped the car and issued a citation, I know there's no insurance report, that kind of a thing. Does that citation have anything to do, for instance, with the sheriff or with the state, or is the citation for a violation of our rules, which everyone has agreed to abide by?
It's going to be a citation for the violation of your rules. It's, once again, you have private roads. You have a gated facility here, which is great. And there's numerous places like this all over the state of Texas. And the state has certain legislation they've put down that shows each of these communities can govern themselves with their rules and their regulations. So that's what you're looking at with that, because you're not coming up to us on any of that. That's not something that should be going against your driving record or anything of that nature. But they've implemented what they have and what you've agreed to say, yes, I will abide by this, because it has specific things in there. You have these in your bylaws and your policies showing what your speeds are, things that you're supposed to be abiding by and that you've agreed to abide by. And if you have a conflict with that, that's when you come to these folks. You know, you have a grievance, a gripe, don't like the way something's going on, hey, send them notice of that. You know, here you are with an open meeting and you're able to air that out and make decisions as to how you want to proceed forward, because you're the one paying the dues, paying the fees. You know, you're the one that's chose to live in this type of community, and there's nothing wrong with that. Does that help you any at all?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I don't have a problem at all with the fining, because you can set the rule, like I said, if you hit speed, you get a fine. My question is, what are the rules and regulations with regards to ensuring the accuracy of the radar?
Could you come to the microphone, please, and ask your question for the benefit of the people that are watching the video? Thank you, sir.
So my question is, I don't have an issue at all with the citations being issued. If you're speeding, you know the rules, you break the law, you get a ticket. My question is, what are the protocols for ensuring that the radars that are being used are being correctly calibrated, and how often does that happen, and what is that protocol?
Well, that'll be a question for your chief when he's up here. He knows what his guidelines are for that. Technically, with any of those stuff, you have to go to a radar school. You have to learn how to use the radar. Now, a radar instructor, which I'm a radar instructor, I'm a radar and LiDAR instructor certified, can teach that. It's not a very long course. It's not a very difficult course. I can speak on the law enforcement end of it, how it works. And then once a year, usually you have 2 years in which to keep getting your radar certified. So that's a group that comes in, checks the radar, makes sure the calibration's correct. Now, if you're working regular radar like a regular traffic officer, DPS, something along that line, somebody inside a city, every day when you start your shift, you calibrate your radar, you check it to make sure it's functioning properly, you have tuning forks for that, you document that information, then usually after you use the radar for a traffic stop, you would document the information again to make sure it's still calibrated properly. There's a lot that goes into that. Far as we probably don't have a handful of radars in the county. We're not out there doing the speeding stuff. That's not really what we're there for. That's what DPS is for. But yeah, I'm sure your chief here will be able to tell you what their protocols are that they go through on that exactly, if that helps you any. Yeah. Yeah, come on.
Thanks for the question, Bob. Okay, so our radars, we have 3 in our units. One of them was sent into the factory last year to get checked and certified. One of them went in this year, and our third one's going after this new budget's approved, so I have money to do that. So we do keep them checked on a regular basis. I think you said the county requires 2 years for your radars. So we're roughly on the same schedule as far as that goes. Because we're not part of the legal system. We're not required to be certified or go to schools to do that. We are trained on the operation of it. And the radars themselves, we've checked them. We do, before every shift, every officer goes and he checks the functioning of the radar. Now, it's not a calibration. A lot of people get confused on the word calibration, and then when we do an actual function check the radar to make sure that it's working properly. That's done on every shift. So every time before an officer goes out, he checks that radar to make sure that it's functioning properly. And we do that with tuning forks. The officer can also do that just when they're out driving because they can match our digital speed to what's reading on the radar. And, you know, you can tell pretty quickly if they're off, if there's a difference between the two. Most of the board members have been out and have gone through a radar orientation. And then we also just did a testing on our radar just a few months ago, just to certify for ourselves that the radars are functioning properly. So you can be confident that if you get pulled over and we give you what the radar rating is, that it's an accurate reading. So, did anybody else have any questions on that?
And that's documented?
Huh? Documented? Yes, sir. Yep.
Checks, the daily checks are documented?
Oh, that part of it? You know, I'm going to have to check in on that because I'm not sure on that, Bob, actually. But if it's not, we can certainly implement that. But it is part of their protocol, and that's what I expect them to do. And they know that. Yes?
Even if you're not required to train, what training do you do?
Okay, so,
Because you're putting a fine on us.
sure.
I expect that you have some training.
You bet. And so what we do is, Captain LeClaire is a retired police officer, and he does our training for the radars, who has a lot of experience with the radars. Our officers themselves, we put them through an exercise first. What they have to do is they have to go out and they have to do, they have a worksheet. So from a stationary position, they have to observe 10 vehicles. They have to try to determine what their speed is from observation, and then they match that to the speed of their radar. And by the time they've done that 10 times or more, you get pretty good at just estimating speed. So when an officer observes someone speeding out on the ranch, it's their observation first. It's not just a radar blip. So when we see someone that we are confident is going too fast and we put the radar on them, you know, we'll know within a couple of miles per hour, you know, what their speed is. And they do that from a stationary radar position, which means when you see us parked on the side of the road. And we also do that when we're in motion or in a rolling radar situation. So when we're closing on a vehicle, you know, we try to estimate what their speed is, and then they'll write that down. They'll verify it with their radar in their unit, and just for practice. They do that all the time anyway, too, just for practice. So we have put a lot of training into it to make sure that you're getting an accurate reading, you know, when we do that. So. Yes, sir.
I know most departments, is there a protocol to have a function check of the radar, not only at the beginning of the shift, but if somebody's setting up a stationary radar, whenever they set up a stationary radar point, or if they change location, they're supposed to run a function check at that time. I think people would have a lot more confidence in the tickets they're getting if you guys could just note the time that those function checks were done.
Sure.
And that, have a function check done and noted the time that it was done after they issued the citation.
Jerry?
Yes.
Do you mind restating what he said? And just a reminder, we're recording this, so when you have a comment or question, if you could come to the microphone.
You bet. So what he was asking was that many agencies require after a traffic stop that they do a function check on the radar after the stop's completed, before they go out again. I will tell you, we don't do that. I haven't required my officers to do that. I will look into that and see if that's something that is yeah.
Noted on the citation
Sure.
in one of the empty spaces, and I think that would give people a lot more confidence in what's being done.
I'll have to look into that as well, because on our new ticket system, I don't know if there's a field where we can put in something like that, but I will look into it and see if we can do something like that. Anybody else? Sheriff Cole.
A few other things going on, I guess, to talk about. Let's talk about the border for just a second. I've met with several border sheriffs, issues that are coming up down there. There's a couple counties. One of them is almost the size of our county. It's a large county. As far as residents go, there's only about 1,000 people that live in it. So therefore, they have a sheriff and 2 deputies. They were told that they had 56 border patrolmen assigned to them, and the sheriff said he's only seen 3. You can imagine. There's a lot of big game ranches in this county, a lot of cattle ranches in this county, so therefore that's why the population is rather small as far as individuals go that live there. They're trying to get all the help they can. Some of the big game ranches, have the tall fences. Well, folks are just steadily coming across the river and cutting these fences and going through them, and it's thousands of dollars, weekly that they're having to spend to fix this. So one of the ranches decided, well, we'll just build one of those stair steps, right? We know they're going to come through anyway. We'll just build this and make it easier. So they can just go up the stairs and down on the other side and keep on going. No, they still cut the fences right next to the stairs. So this is an ongoing thing. So when people talk to you and say there's a crisis at the border, there is. There truly is. And the best thing I can tell you there is to let your legislators know that you're concerned, even all the way up here. I have people all the time asking me, how is it impacting us? It hasn't impacted us as far as people. It has impacted us as far as narcotics trafficking. We are finding lots and lots of narcotics that come in, and the border is where they've come from. They've come into Dallas, and then they fan out from the Dallas area, and we get stuff that comes here to us. And right now, and it's kind of crazy, my opinion, when I worked nothing but narcotics for the county, you would go out, seize methamphetamine, take down a drug lab, these kind of things, and methamphetamine was very expensive. All right, so it cost like $275 for a 16th, and that was a lot of money. Now you can get a 16th for about $25 because they flooded us so much with this, and the price of marijuana has gone through the roof. They're not smuggling that across. Of course, we have lots of states that are allowing it to be grown and things of that nature. We took down here back in February of this year an indoor grow that was going on close to the equipment area. We took about $4 million worth of marijuana off the street. Seized a whole lot of stuff, and we're slowly getting some of that stuff awarded to us, so that we can turn back to the public to help with some of that. So that's our biggest thing is the meth has become so cheap and inexpensive, it's making it easier for more and more people to get hooked on it. And it's harder and harder to get off. And then with the influx of fentanyl that's coming in, and we've had it, from what I can tell, at least 2 fentanyl deaths in this county in the last 2 years that are direct result to fentanyl. One individual went to Longview where they had actually gotten it at, and it was laced in the marijuana that they bought, and it caused them to overdose. And then another one came out of another area in the north end of the county that same thing, had gone somewhere else right outside the county, made a purchase and come back in. So if you have any kind of information, any family members, we're all there, right? Somebody we know that's been involved or has had a problem with some type of drug stuff, please let us know, because if we can help, we will. When we talk about helping, it's just like our jail facility. We have 160 occupancy jail. We stay right around 145, and then we still have about 30 to 40 housed outside of the county. So I've really been arguing quite a bit with commissioners on trying to get this jail enlarged so that we can do what we need to house these folks, because I can only foresee this getting a little more and more worse in the next couple of years, just simply because of this influx that's coming from the border. If we could shut this border down, then we probably wouldn't have quite as big an influx coming up through here, because this is what they're aiming for, smaller areas, till they can get that stuff in here and get people hooked on it. And the younger they can get them hooked, the better they like it. Let's just face it, that's the way they are. they don't have any concerns for us or our families. Their concerns for $1, and that's it. But we're working steadily on trying to do that. They've got plans in the work. We've been looking at that, but it's just like me and Judge Parker were talking about. They move kind of slow on some of that. I was able to stayed at them for 3 years. Finally, this past budget was able to get $92,000 put in there to build a animal housing facility. They're at the office, hold about 50 animals. I told them, I said, we went last winter. We had to seize 48 dogs from a place. We got no place to put that. Winsboro helped us with their kennel, but we still had to makeshift some stuff and do all that. And fortunately, some of the different groups we work with, out of those 48 dogs, we only had to put 2 down that were unable to be brought back because they were in such bad shape. And 1 was put down because it couldn't be tamed enough. It was way too aggressive to everyone. But the rest of those, we adopted out. In the last 2 years, we've probably adopted out about 140 dogs that we've picked up. Everybody said, well, they don't pick nothing up. Yes, we do. Okay, we do. We just don't have the place to always keep them. And so that's what we're working on right now. We got the dirt in there, and we've run into some little hiccup with the auditor's office or something. So now we've got to redo that, but we're not going to stop fighting that. And any of y'all are for that, you keep hollering at them because that's what we need. They need to know the public wants this done. And I believe the public wants this done. We've worked at this for a long time, and it's one of the things we need to continue with. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. She's asking where the facility will be, and it's going to be right there where our sheriff's office is at. We've got property right behind us, and we've mapped out an area there. So when we get this facility done, we're designing it to continue to be added onto so that it can grow in size, because that'll be the next thing we hit them for, some ordinances that will affect some of the stray animal stuff that's out here. We get people that call in, they get animals dumped out on them. We'll try to get them picked up. We get them up there. We try to get them adopted out if we can't find the original owner. We had one situation, a person in the Clear Lakes area, somebody came by, said they were with the Humane Society and told them, you have too many puppies, you can't have those here. So the guy believed him. They loaded the puppies up, and then that person hauled them down to Lake Hallbrook and dumped them out. Needless to say, since we know who it was, we took care of that. And anytime we can catch somebody, that's what I try to tell folks, if you get a license plate number of somebody that's dumping animals, get us that license plate number, because we will track that down and do everything we can to get that taken care of. We look at that really seriously. We try to make sure that we're taking care of those things out there for folks, because we understand that's a serious situation. We've had people come all the way from the Metroplex and dump animals out here. They forget they put a chip in them, and we're able to track the chip. So we're able to go back and say, well, I've never been to Wood County. Well, I don't think your animal traveled from Dallas to Wood County, okay, without some assistance along the way. But that's some of the stuff that we're working on. Once again, we're here for y'all. Even if you think something is not a law enforcement issue, don't hesitate to call us, because we'll be glad to try to figure it out. We deal with a lot of civil stuff, and I've tried to explain to all the deputies, sometimes there's some criminal stuff that's involved in some of the civil. That you're not seeing because you're blinded by just looking at the civil aspects of things. Let's look at every aspect of it. It may take us a little bit to get something figured out, but we can get it figured out if we all work together, because we work for y'all. Yes, sir. Okay, he's asking if 911 is how they get a hold. That's in an emergency, okay, if that's an emergency. The best thing is you just call the regular line up there, 763-2201. That's just the main line in, and there's a whole bunch of others. I'll tell you what we'll do when I get back. I'll make sure they get those posted on our website. They should be. If they're not, I'll make sure all those numbers are there, because there's like 4 different numbers into the office. Now, there's an automated system when you go on there, but we've done that to try to make it a little easier, so if you listen to those prompts, you can go right to whoever you need to talk to. It takes you to an investigator. It takes you to the dispatch. It takes you to my secretary. It takes you straight to the jail. We get an enormous influx of calls that come in that are for the jail. They're always asking questions about inmates that are there trying to figure stuff out. So that's the reason we went to the automated system, because we found we were continually answering the phone, and it was always for the jail. But yeah, if you have a true emergency, then you call 911. That's what that's for. So, and if you're not sure, you can call it anyway, okay? You know, the dispatch will take your information. We're going to make sure of that.
I don't think this is on. Is this on?
Oh, man.
All righty, thank you. So I have a different criminal issue that I have to ask about. I have owned my land and home out here for almost 50 years. I've been broken into in the month of November, things stolen. I've been broken into before and lots stolen. People break into my car, but it's becoming more frequent. And I have never been afraid until now, because somebody broke in November. And, you know, it's almost 50 years, and I don't know what to do. So I have made reports to the local security, and I've made reports to, not on this current one, but on the previous ones, to Sheriff's Department of Wood County. But nothing happens.
Well, do you know who your investigator was on that, by chance?
No, I do not. I don't know that I had one.
Well, you should have. If you had a burglary, and typically the way that goes, you make your report. A deputy comes out and just takes the initial report and all the information. Lists anything that you have stolen. Hopefully there's serial numbers or some kind of identifying marks with that. And so they bring that back. That's all entered into the computer. And it takes about a week because of the process of everything,
Okay.
that an investigator should contact you. Usually the one that was, so this was back in November.
Last week, about 3 weeks ago.
About 3 weeks.
yes.
Okay, I can check on that when I go back up there.
Okay, I
I'm
have
gonna-
not reported that one to your office. I've
Okay.
only reported it locally.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll get with the security chief and talk to him about that. But anything you've reported up there, it should be listed in the system, and somebody should have got a hold of it to start trying to track stuff down. If you don't have serial numbers and you don't have identifying marks, it makes it really tough.
Well, what about fingerprints? Nobody has ever fingerprinted?
What was the material that they touched that there would have been a fingerprint
Oh,
on?
my, I think somebody lived in there at least 3 days.
Inside your
early in
house,
November.
or-
In my home, yes. In my house.
Okay, so you've got more than one place you live.
I live in Dallas.
Okay.
But my homestead is here.
Okay. Okay. Let me get with the security chief here in a little bit, and we'll see what we can figure out. Because it sounds like that really sounds like that's somebody around
I've got
here.
property damage as well outside of my house.
Okay.
So I'm dealing with issues.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know what to do.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll work on it for you. We will.
Thank you.
Yes. Anybody else? Hate to take up all's meeting time, you know, you got lots of stuff to do. And I've got another place I got to be, but if there's anything else, glad to try to answer. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if there's anything on the book to put in an animal control officer in the county to free up the sheriffs.
Well, that would be the next thing that we did. Once we get and what she's asking about is an animal control officer. And I've had a little bit of an issue trying to make commissioners understand an animal control officer does not have to be a certified peace officer. Now, we take on that responsibility as the peace officers for the county, so each deputy is an animal control officer. Our next step, once the building's there, once they actually get some ordinances together, for lack of a better way to say, let's just say it, leash law, something that we can hold and control, you know, the animal by, then we look for having just specific people to do that. And that would be the next thing. And once again, they don't, I'm sure in their minds, they look at this and say, oh, this great expense of what we're going to have to pay to hire more deputies, which I wish you'd just go and hire more deputies, because then we could have more people in the areas where they need to be. But they don't necessarily have to be a certified peace officer. We can send them to animal control training, and that's a week-long school they would go to for that. And we've already even had a couple animal control officers that want to come to work for us now that they know we're trying to do something about it. But our ordinances is our next thing. And they seem to have a trouble understanding they can issue ordinances for this. Because what they told me was, no, you can't do that. Well, yeah, you can. Smith County did it. So we gathered up everything that Smith County did on their animal control issues and the ordinances that they put out. We put it all together and we said, here you go. They did it. Why can't we? Do you want some other counties that's done it? Hadn't heard anything back. But that's the courthouse. So, guys, I appreciate visiting with you. Be glad to come out here anytime. Enjoyed it. And if you got some other questions, don't hesitate to call up there. We're going to check on your stuff and see exactly what we can figure out, okay? And sounds to me like somebody may have dropped the ball, and that does happen. So, and I apologize for that. But we'll get it figured out, all right? Thank y'all.
Thank you, Sheriff Cole. Thank you. Next is the financial agenda. Adam's going to do a presentation on that one.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. All right, so going to go through largely exactly what we went through the last time with respect to your 2024 budget. So I'm going to go a little bit quicker through it. If you have questions, I'm certainly happy to answer any questions you have, but I don't want to just go through everything that we went through last time. You're like, Adam, you've already told us that. So if we can go to the first slide, please. So hopefully everybody is aware now the recommended or proposed increase is 1.91%. We look at cost of living, 3.2%, so your dues increase of $3 or 1.91% is below that of cost of living. So I think that is a great win. We're also looking to increase the short-term rentals and golf fees roughly by 1.91%, and I say roughly by 9.1% as it pertains to golf, because a lot of those, you know, a cart fee may be a little bit more than the 1.9, just to make it make sense. And then the indoor RV storage rates increasing by $300 annually, as we had talked about last year. There will be no increases to the outdoor, but the indoor will increase, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through. Next slide, please. So when we talk about revenue, total maintenance fees, $3,758,508. So what goes into that? That includes the 1.91% increase, proposed increase. That also includes an increase in our transfer to reserves. Right now it's set at 3%. We've increased that to 3.5%, and with the expectation of hopefully continuing to increase that as we go throughout the years to increase our reserves. Why is that important? Well, because we're getting a much better interest rate now. Why not let your money work for you passively? Let's transfer as much as we can. We're looking at almost $27,000 increase in revenue alone this year based on interest rates. So let's capitalize on that. Let's continue to do that throughout the future, and it'll put you in a much better financial position. We've reduced the timeshares. So previously we account for timeshares. We know Holiday Inn is closing on or about January 10th. So there's no additional revenue coming in. So we've reduced that. We've also reduced our expected initiation fees. Typically, we allocate for 92 initiation fees, full-size initiation fees a year. But the trends we've seen over the past 3 months are insinuating that home sales are going down. So we're going to be extra cautious on this. We've bumped that down to 85. We've outperformed the 92 every year to include this year. It's not going to be much, but we're going to outperform that. But I would rather be conservative with our revenue estimates than be a little bit too aggressive with those. We've also increased the reserves to golf, transfers to golf reserves. If you remember back earlier this year, we spent some money from that to reduce some of the winter kill that we had on the greens. So in order to get that back up, we've increased those golf reserves as well. And we've taken out the timeshare green fees. So as we start to look through all of these things, That brings us, the other income is one that we consistently have. Short-term rentals, RV storage are also included in that, so you'll see that a little bit. But then again, as I pointed out, this year we're projecting $30,500 in revenue from the money that you have in the bank. Last year, we were at $3,200. So a huge win on that one. All that goes in to say our total estimated revenue for the 2024 budget is $4,533,848. Next slide, please. So as we talk about our operating budget, just some general statements here. And we talked about this. What you'll see from a wage increase, 5%. That's an investment into your folks that work out here. Utilities, we estimated 3% increase and a 5% water increase. We've estimated 5% estimated fuel increase. Granted, we're trying to forecast 12 months into the future here, and fuel, depending on what goes on overseas, is a very fluid situation, but we feel like 5% is a reasonable estimate. Insurance, we're estimating a 10% increase. Remember, that's 5%, so we renew our insurance at the end of every August. So we have a known for 8 months, 7 months, and then we have an unknown, but we've forecast that that's going to be roughly a 10% increase. And what you'll also see in the operating budget is a increase in the capital type projects that normally you would see allocated in those board restricted funds. Again, if we go back, that's the reason we'd like to increase those transfers to reserves so that we can bolster those accounts, capitalize on your passive interest, and then be able to do some additional things there. So just generally speaking, again, we went through this the last time, but just some general trends that you'll see. All right, next slide, please. As we go through here, I just note some of the higher line items that you'll see. We'll talk just very briefly through some of those. But buildings and grounds, $65,000. What does that include? So that's our contracts, your ABDI contracts, your gate contracts, all of those things. It's repairs. There's a lot of repairs that go into that. It's also a new gate server. So $17,000 of that is just for the server that operates the gate. And then we've got some rumble strips and things like that built in there. Your equipment repair, $6,000, dramatic increase from last year. That's primarily to replace the failing body cams that we have. And then medical, again, a sizable increase from last year. That is for AEDs. We've worked with Chief Bollinger and the fire department. They've been gracious enough to order new AEDs. They're going to gift their old AEDs to us. But our intent is, one, to accept those graciously, obviously. If we need to replace some of the pads or batteries or things like that to keep them in compliance, we can certainly do that, but we'd also like to add a couple of additional AEDs, namely somewhere around this area. Most likely it'll probably be the pool hall, and then potentially one over at Whiskey's, but continue to increase our AEDs availability across the ranch. Next slide, please. Maintenance, buildings and grounds fencing, $95,500. That's a sizable increase. So what does that include? It's the exterior fence starting at Greenbrier Dam and essentially going east all along Lylesville up to the corner of the ranch to replace all that exterior fencing. That's phase one in a multi-phase project to go through and replace the exterior fencing. Pipe fence, we talked about this. The entranceways, the split rail fence looks beautiful for a year, and then after that it's costly, it's high maintenance, it's a lot of those things. So what we've built into this is redoing the east side, the west side, Section 3 and Section 6 entryways, replacing all the split rail fence with a pipe fence, kind of a country pipe, I don't know, Texas style pipe fence. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's gonna look phenomenal. So that's built into that as well. Drainage and erosion. This is primarily for culvert replacement. We've identified, already have that list of what we intend to do in 2024, and that is culvert replacement. Our equipment repair, $8,000. This is just general upkeep. It takes a lot to maintain the equipment that we have, and then that also is just preventative maintenance. So we do a lot of preventative maintenance to prevent the catastrophic breakdowns and the more costly the repairs, but $8,000 for that. Landscaping, $24,000. So you see that we went down, but then like what did we give up? Well, what we gave up is the contract mowers that we have come out. They take care of around here in front of the pool and over at the restaurant, we've canceled that contract. And we're going to take that on in-house. I think that is something that we should be doing, we can be doing, and we've got the personnel to be able to do that and the equipment. So we canceled that, but then we're increasing it a little bit. The landscaping is going to be the restaurant. Our big landscaping project for 2024 will be the restaurant. So we're excited about that. Small tools, dramatic increase. This includes a computer, a laptop for our maintenance manager. He's continually having to go back down to the shop to be able to do some things, so we're working towards efficiency. We've implemented an online type tasking system that the guys can look at their phone, they can see a variety of things, but it prevents them from having to drive from here back down to the shop just to drive up to the fitness center, so it's all about efficiency. And the tool package, so we're looking at a tool package for each one of the trucks. Again, there could be a issue with the toilet over here, and they come over with what they think they need to fix the toilet with, and they realize there's a light bulb out, or they need this, or they need that. As opposed to driving back down to the shop to get it, we're going to equip each one of the trucks with a basic tool package that will inventory to maintain accountability, but it will increase our efficiency. So that is maintenance. Am I going too fast? All right, we went through all this, so I don't want to gloss over it, but I don't want to take all day on it either. Golf maintenance, $26,000. That's a drill and fill, the 2 seasonal sandings, and then incrementally monthly based on weather and rain and things of that nature. The $22,000 for the sod, we are going to do a tee box expansion project. So not every tee box will be expanded, but key tee boxes will be expanded. The course was designed by Leon Howard. It was intended to accommodate 3 different tee positions, and we've now got 5. So we're prematurely running out some of those tee boxes, and we're going to expand that to increase the playability of it. The equipment repair, $25,500. This is the hole 12 fountain. We're going to replace that. The new version will be under warranty. It will also have lights, and then as Ileana can attest, it will have holograms, and we can put your name in it. And I'm kidding about the holograms. We won't have holograms. It will have lights, but we'll get that back up. What's also included in that line item is 2 sets of Trimax mower blades, and then just regular PMs. The fertilizers and chemicals, $53,000. That's 2 seasonal treatments, and then as needed throughout. And then for your irrigation repair, primarily this goes towards just those catastrophic things that happen, but we're trying to preemptively get new heads. Each one of those heads is about $600 per head, and we have hundreds of heads spread out across the golf course, and we repair them as best we can, but it's getting to the point where we can't get, when a gear drive goes out, they don't make that particular head anymore, so it's becoming increasingly more difficult to get the parts to replace. So we'll start preemptively taking care of that. Next slide, please. Pro Shop, the $4,500 for building and repair. That's an HVAC insulation project. If you've ever been in there in the heat of the summer, it doesn't feel like the air conditioner is on, but the air conditioner is running. So we believe that we can correct that with some HVAC work, some duct work, and some insulation. The equipment repair and maintenance for $4,800 is a computer, and then as required, anytime we have damage to one of the rented golf carts or a variety of things there, that's what is primarily covered under this. And then range supplies, we're going to increase our range balls by a little bit, so that's the increase you see there. Next slide, please. All right, recreation. Building and facility rentals, building and facility maintenance, $12,000. So that's the pool hall needs a new HVAC, so we're going to get that taken care of. The disc golf, we're going to dig up all of the disc golf. We're going to increase the size and re-pour those to make them the playability a little bit better, and then just general repairs that we might need around. Fitness center, sizable increase there. This is primarily the cardio equipment. So we talked phase 1 last year. We purchased a bunch of weight training equipment, but we've got a ton of outdated equipment up there that we're spending thousands of dollars to maintain every year. So we've looked into a lease. It'll be a 4-year or 3-year lease, but we'll get new treadmills, new ellipticals, a stair climber, a rowing machine, and a stationary bike. So the intent is get everything that we need up there, and that falls under fitness facility. Your lakes, $32,000, went down. Hopefully, we can stay down around that number, but that includes your Overton's contract, that's the stalking, and then that's 2 preemptive treatments of the beneficial bacteria that we did this year. Again, that's what we put in there to help balance the nutrient levels within the lake so that we're not faced with algae blooms and then spraying and all of those things. And then chemical supplies, $11,000. That's just what it takes for 2 pools to maintain the chemicals in those. Next slide, please. Restaurant, you'll see that each one of these have decreased. We don't expect a decrease in the rates, but the new contract or new agreement that was negotiated with Whiskey's, they're now responsible for 25% of all utilities. So we're moving in a very positive direction there, and you'll see the $67,485, much less than we spent this year, considerably less than what we spent a couple of years ago. So things are trending very well there. Next slide, please. Buildings and grounds. For admin, that's new office flooring. So when you come in and you've got the older carpet that needs to be replaced, that's a replacement of the carpet. Credit card processing, $16,000. It seems like an enormous number, but if you go back to pre-2023, last year, we didn't charge the 3% convenience fee, and we were spending tens of thousands of dollars more. So that small change, small implementation for the convenience fee has really yielded some very positive results. Member relations, this will be changed, or this was previously customer relations. Member relations, more accurate descriptor of what it is, 21,280. So that includes your fireworks for 4th of July. It includes a band for this upcoming 4th of July. We do the dumpster days, we do the resident opportunities, things of that nature. So those are all within member relations. Collection agency, $40,000. It's a sizable amount. But as we talked last meeting about the bad debt expenses, Jeff gave a synopsis of what that is. We've got to do something, and we've invested in this. We're pushing hard on it, and we need to continue to push to get that right. And then contract labor, notable increase. That is due to the contract cleaner. We previously had a full-time and a part-time employee that did that, and then there were the associated costs with having the employee do it. We found that it was more cost-effective to contract that out, so that's the route that we went, and then they also provide some of the supplies. So there's actually a cost savings there, although it doesn't look like it within that particular line item. But that will be moved to multi-departmental, and we'll talk a little bit about that. All right, next slide, please. Human resources, $5,000 for job advertising. It's expensive to find folks sometimes. That's why we want to incentivize folks to stay. Background checks, $3,000. That is a mandatory. I've heard that asked several times. Do you guys do background checks? 100%. If you are a full-time employee at Holly Lake Ranch, we have a background check on you, and we do a pre-employment drug screening, and then we do 4 surprise drug screenings throughout the year. Member relations, so events and meals. This is springtime. We have a little thing for all the employees to get over. Typically it's hot dogs and burgers, things like that. We do a Thanksgiving meal here, and then we do a Christmas party for folks. So that's what is included in those. Next slide, please. Your multi-departmental, $46,000 for computer support. So this includes our contract that we currently have that operates the server, the mail system, all of those things. It includes Jonas, which is our program of record that maintains all of your homeowner account information and billing, and then Club Express, which is our website. The audit, $35,000. That is just kind of standard what it costs. We do have seen that is starting to get a little bit better and better every year as we refine our techniques and communication with Henry & Peters. Corporate compliance, and then legal, $15,000 and $60,000, which is a little bit below what we projected this year. But as a reminder, we still have money that was not allocated in 2022 that was moved and transitioned to board restricted funds that should we need that money, there's additional funds sitting gaining interest now. So that's that. All right, next slide, please. Capital leases, not a ton of changes on this. We are going to rename the VGM package. You see that third from the bottom? That's our golf course package. It's the big package that we get from John Deere to be able to maintain the golf course. One note that you will see on the 2017 loader, we had projected this year that we were going to buy a new loader as our lease had expired. When we looked at the loader that we had and the cost to get a new loader leased, we didn't need that. So we elected to extend the lease that we currently had at a much better cost savings, and it's perfectly adequate for what we need to use it for. And then you will see on the final version of this that comes out, the equipment lease that we talked about with the fitness center, that will be transitioned over to your capital expense and leases there. All right, next slide, please. So what does it all kind of look like? So we've talked maintenance fees, initiation fees, golf and other for our total revenue of $4.5 million. Our total expenses are just a little over $5 million. You're like, wait a minute, we've got an upside down budget, we're just starting. Those expenses include depreciation. So our depreciable expenses are $566,484. So if we reduce that from our net, that's where we get our net income less depreciation. So we're actually starting this off with a positive of $8,892. Next slide, please. So changes. Your numbers will not change, but the departments may change in a couple of areas. And we did this last year. So we started this, we called it a redistribution of cost centers last year. And the intent was to make it a little bit easier, I guess, to see per department. What does it cost you per department? And we're still refining that just a little bit. So in other income, we've got a new gate card in there. This predates back to when you had to have the gate card to swipe in and come in. It's a little bit archaic, so we're going to change that to make it a little bit more reflective of what it is now. In the admin expenses, you'll see rec cards move to recreational expenses, and the allocated line item is $2,200, so you'll see that removed from admin and moved to recreational department. Customer relations, we changed that to member relations. Extermination should be in multi-departmental, so that will be moved over there. That's a cost of $4,500 a year. And then contract labor, which we just spoke about, will be moved to multi-departmental at a cost of $41,600. So those will all change. And you'll see the lease, the BGM name will change. And once we secure the fitness equipment lease, that will be added to that schedule as well. So those are changes you can expect to see, but your bottom lines will remain the same, much like last year. We're just trying to make this more palatable for folks to be able to look at and really be able to determine what is in that. All right, next slide, please. So the proposed capital budget. For maintenance, $425,000 for contract road paving. Considerable increase over what it was this year. Memory serves, I think it was $216,000. So we've elected to really get aggressive with fixing some of the roads. In the note that I sent out yesterday, the GM update, we mentioned that there will be a vote coming up. A special vote will be held in accordance with our bylaws and our financial policies and procedures. Any expenditure over $250,000 requires the vote of the membership. So when the board considers approval for this, it's just them considering approval for the total expenditure of $786,500 with that little earmark in there of the folks have to vote to expend over the 250. So when you get your ballot will say something to the effect of, yes, I approve the expenditure of $425,000 for the purpose of improving Holly Lake Ranch roads, or no, I do not approve, and I would like to stay at the cap of $250,000. So the intent is we're still going to do road work, but it will be capped if it's voted negatively at that $250,000. So we've got the road work, F-350 truck. This is our dump truck that we use a lot. $45,000. That is clearly not for a brand new truck. I don't think we need a brand new truck. The intent is to trade that one in. We're probably not going to get a whole lot for it, but we're going to take the dump bed off of it, find a suitable used truck that will be perfect for our needs, and then swap those beds out and go that route. The Holly Hall generator, $65,500. That is for this building. With the intent of when we have bad inclement weather, we lose vital utilities throughout the ranch. We now have a place that anybody can come. The kitchen will be fully operational. You can use the refrigerators, the microwaves, the ovens. You'll have heat, cooling, restrooms to use, but it's a central gathering place so that we can help serve the residents of this ranch. The 72-inch deck mower, that was in our estimated or our 5-year outlook, has been for several years, so that's to replace one of our existing, which becomes even more critical now that we've ceased the mowing contract. Facilities renovation, that is for this building, so we have $30,000 allocated in board restricted funds for 2023. We're purchasing the materials, pending this being approved. We're purchasing all those materials, then with the expectation of using that $30,000 for the installation of all those materials. So hopefully, if all goes well, by first quarter of 2024, you will have a building here that is powered regardless of scenario. You'll have new flooring, new paint on the walls. This stage will be gone. There'll be a center stage. The vanities, the bathrooms will all be refreshed and things of that nature, so you'll have a better gathering place. Dam maintenance and repair, that $50,000 is not to repair the dam. That $50,000 is when TCEQ signs off on the EAP and the, sorry, I misspoke, not the EAP. The emergency action plan is not in relation to this. So this would be for repairs for the dam. So when TCEQ and our engineering firm agree on what should be done, that's $50,000 for them to work up the engineering study to be able to do that. But we're still a little ways away from that and continuing to work on it. Security, our patrol vehicle, $37,000. This is to replace Unit 19, which is one of our full-size vehicles. And the expectation is we're going to get a mid-size vehicle that will be better on gas, still suit our needs at a more reasonable cost. Gate generators, $23,000. That's for sections 3, 6, and then the west side here. The east side is already powered on a backup generator, but if we reflect a few years ago, what's the most important thing that people moved into Holly Lake Ranch for? It was the security. We overwhelmingly saw that. But when we lose power, all of our gates lock up in the up position. We don't have enough folks to be able to stage at because 9 times out of 10, when the gates go up, there are pressing matters throughout the ranch that need to be addressed. So let's maintain the security, and that would be to equip those 3 gates with backup generators. Golf maintenance, 60 horsepower tractor. Recreation, the Section 3 rec improvement. Again, this is not a carryover, but kind of a redo of the $15,000 that was set aside this year that will not be expended from 2023 board restricted funds for the purpose of getting a new playground down in Section 3. This is an opportunity to talk to the residents of Section 3, find out what they want instead of us saying a playground is probably what you need, let us give you a playground. So this is a better opportunity to really determine the needs of folks. And then the kayak launch and the common area site enhancement, $8,000 as allocated from 2023, will now be reallocated in 2024. And then it kind of goes hand in hand with that common area site enhancement. Like, what is that, Adam? Well, when the common area acquisition goes through, and I'm confident that we're gonna get that through, that presents a whole new area for us to kind of think about. Now that once you own all of your common areas, how would you better allocate those common areas? What could we do to improve access to Lake Greenbrier? Things of that nature. So that all goes into that. So your total would be $786,500. Next slide, please. As the board starts to go through and consider voting on all of these, there will also be the approval. So they vote to expend the approval of $786,500 board restricted funds, and then every quarter they reaffirm and reconfirm that. So they'll also be considering a vote on the expenditure of first quarter 2024 funds. As you can see, that's facilities renovation, which we talked about, the deck mower, which we talked about, Holly Hall generator, F-350 truck, and then the gate generators. Our priorities, my priorities within these are the facilities, the Holly Hall generator, and the gates. Specifically with the truck, I mentioned that's going to be a used truck. We're asking that the funds be allocated now, so that gives us sufficient time to find the right truck for the right price instead of waiting till fourth quarter and then being kind of up against a rock and a hard place and saying, well, this is the best we can find with the time that we have. So we're going to search and shop around for that. So if you know of any smoking deals on an F-350, please let us know. And it doesn't have to be an F-350, Cummings. So I just say. Yeah, just say. All right, next slide, please. So the proposed dues, $156.76 a month right now. The proposed to 2024 is the addition of $3, which we talked about, or 1.91%. So that would bring your total maintenance dues to $159.76. Trash stays the same, so you're still at $15.24 there. So your combined monthly total would be $175. If you elect to pay before the 19th of January, pay your dues annually with a check or cash, you get a 5% discount. And that 5% discount equates to $2,004.14. If you elect to do the same thing before January 19th, but you want to swipe your card, we'll give you a 4% discount. So that total cost would be $2,023.32. All right, next slide, please. Golf. I won't read through all of these. Hopefully y'all can see them, but a single golf membership, if paid before the 20th of this year, you would have paid $1,237. If you pay before the 19th of next year, you're looking at $1,260. So that is a true 1.91% increase. Where you'll see it may fluctuate a little bit is in places like the cart fee, trail fee. So we went from $12 for a cart fee to $13.50. Clearly more than 1.91%, but when we look at the total cost of the lease for all of those golf carts, the intent is factor projections and then to make that cover all of the lease. So you'll see a couple of things there. All right, next slide, please. Proposed indoor RV. So as we discussed last year, the intent would be to raise that. So there's 19-20 spots up there, 30-foot to 40-foot spots, depending on the one. You get a free 30-amp service. It's an exceptional deal. And even at $1,150 a year, that's $95.83 a month, which is a phenomenal deal. So no change to the outdoor, but it's an increase to the $1,150 for the indoor. And then finally, our short-term rentals. Last year, the thought was whatever dues increases to short-term rentals should be commensurate, and the board is electing to do the same thing this year. So you'll see those rates go from less than 6, so this is how many folks it sleeps, from 618 to 630. Between 7 and 11, they went from 927, it'll be 945 for 2024. And then finally, greater than 12 was 1,236, and it is now going to be 1,260. So I think that is it. Yes. I would open it up for any questions at this time before the board considers for approval all of these matters. Yes, sir.
Just a reminder, if you have a question, please come to the microphone, state your name and section.
We can turn this around unless you'd rather look at them. It's up to you.
Again, Bob Howes, Section 4. My question is about the generator. So I'm a little bit curious and confused. You already have a generator here for the office, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you're trying to put one in for the Holly Hall?
Correct.
I don't understand why it would be $65,000, because a 24 kilowatt generator should more than easily handle that. No?
So we are looking at 125 kilowatt generator for this. We've got 3 AC units over there. I think there are 2 over here. We've got a couple of different ovens. The intent would be to make this exactly usable just like it is right now in the event that folks are out of power for a week or 2 weeks or, God forbid, even longer than that. The one that we have over there, I believe you're right, it's either a 24 or 16K, but that powers roughly half of the admin building, and it doesn't power the entirety of that half. So it provides a few lights, a few outlets, and the server. But anytime we lose power over there, if you're on the back side of it, you have nothing, so you have to come up and try and figure out a way to make it all work.
Okay, interesting. Can I ask a second question? So the second question would be about whiskeys, about the landscaping. what landscaping is going to be done at Whiskey's?
Great question. So we've been working with a resident out here who is a certified, no kidding, bona fide landscape architect. I don't know what other adjectives I could use there to prove his worth, but he's volunteered his time here, has helped us with the fitness center, and has drawn up a plan for Whiskey. So that includes, I refer to them as the tiered areas. If you're down in the parking lot and you're getting ready to walk up, so it's those tiered areas. It's the gabled end that you would see, the kind of where the Four Seasons sign used to be. It's redoing that. And then the entrance side, it's also doing all of that area over there as well.
Okay, personally, I think that's not something the homeowners should be paying for. I love Whiskey's. I go there all the time. I spend a lot of money in Whiskey's, but that seems like something we shouldn't be paying for or see even necessary.
Well, okay. Any other questions on finances?
I'm Dr. Danny Sessoms. I live at 233 Old Gate Path, which is over here off of Greenbrier, just as you go down into the valley where the eastern extension of Lake Greenbrier is. I make this comment and I ask this question directly to the board and to you people out here, because you're going to have to shoulder the cost on it. My own personal opinion is the roads are horrific out here. I live on a street that is a cul-de-sac emptying into Greenbrier, and I used to think it was bad. I would have considered it a third world country road. But now, Greenbrier, from where you go to one spot to another spot down there toward the lake, is literally eroding out so much to the point that nothing you can do to continue to put asphalt down on that road without remediation of the drainage. And when I moved here 5 years ago, there was a big report that was submitted to me personally that one of the main problems around here is lack of erosion control that's damaging the roads. And what has been done in that period of time, you can't drive down the street and shovel a little asphalt out and expect that to last. Okay, so my question to the board is, if you're going to submit this to the board, I would really like to see what streets are you going to actually pave, what remediation are you going to do. I will tell you one thing that really benefited me. I walked down Greenbrier Road after one of our big heavy rains, and it had eroded out so much, I recovered a fossil tree at the bottom on the top of a Cretaceous level of sandstone. I was a paleontologist, by the way, and salvaged that dang thing that should still be in the ground about 4 feet. Now, the trees that are overhanging the road that are not helping any at all because they're not maintained. So all we're ending up with is something that doesn't move us forward, but doesn't even keep us where we are, okay? So I would ask the board to say, hey, homeowners, before you vote on this, here are the places that we're going to remediate. Here are the places where erosion control is going to be done. And here's what the effect is going to be when you get through with this in furthering the improvement of the overall ranch itself. Okay? Thank you.
Any? I can.
Okay, I know that Adam has sent out the information. He has a plan 2030 that shows what roads are planning to be paved between now and 2030. The drainage and erosion, I think if you notice, this year's budget was probably not nearly as much as we needed. He did say that we're starting with replacing some culverts. What's been done in the past is kind of hit or miss. We're going to do this, and we're going to repave this road, but we didn't look at the drainage. But we don't want to look at what the immediate needs are. We want to look into the future so that we have a plan for, okay, we need to fix this drainage issue before we pave this road, and we need to make sure, and Adam can expound on this more because that is an administrative issue, but we're looking at the drainage. The plan is not to just kind of Band-Aid the drainage. we want to fix it and then fix the roads that need to be, that can be fixed, that don't have drainage issues. Would you?
Yes,
That-
that is correct. We also have a report, so there was a report, drainage and erosion, done in 2019, 17, 18? It's close, 2018, which is, I think, what you're referring to. Since then, we've also had a volunteer here who is a civil engineer go through and evaluate every one of the roads. So we have a road diagram with pictures, and it talks about translatitudinal failures, all these different things that now we can look at, and then we've assigned a condition code to it. And that condition code is not only the condition of the road, but it's also usability of the road. How many folks does it impact? All of these different things to assign essentially a numerical urgency to it. We've used that and then constructed our Plan 2030. So we have outlined until 2030 the roads based on that report that are most pressing. It doesn't mean just go and overlay them. There are certainly some areas that, of those areas that are most pressing, there's going to be places we have to take up, or there's going to be culvert replacements, or there's going to be, substantial sub-base work that needs to be done, because we are not in the habit, and it is not our intent just to simply throw some overlay over it and then call it good until it presents itself again the following year. So we are certainly taking that into account, sir.
Another thing I'd like to point out, erosion report you got in 2018. If God's willing and the creeks don't rise, the dredging that was recommended in 2018 is going to occur this month.
Any other?
5 years, but it's coming.
Larry Bowman, Section 4. I sent the board this. I've looked at that road report, and my recommendation on that is that we need to hit the main roads first. If you look at west side and east side, everybody travels either Holly Lake East, Holly Lake West, or Greenbrier. And I'm telling you, that's where you're going to get the most for the buck originally, because we all travel that. And Greenbrier, I can tell you, from the cul-de-sac up here going for the next mile or so is terrible. And everybody that lives on that side has to travel that. So I just ask you to, as you look at that, modify that plan a little bit, because that was not in his plan. I think you got to look at where the bang for the buck is first.
That's in our Plan 2030, so I can't recite it exactly, but I can definitively tell you next year from the cul-de-sac, which we got the cul-de-sac to the entrance this year. We skipped that piece from the cul-de-sac down past Gulf Drive to the emergency spillway, but then we started up with the sealing. So we've also incorporated sealing. It used to be this binary thing of to pave or not to pave. Well, nobody else does that, why are we? So now we can seal, we can extend the life of some of those roads, but that spot between the two of them is on the list for next year. There's also another spot further up on Greenbrier. I don't remember the exact thing, I'm sorry. And then we've got some on this side that includes sealing. So I believe we're going to seal from somewhere in the vicinity of here all the way up past Timber Ridge. It may even extend a little bit further, but we are looking at those main thoroughfares as well. So we'll continue to revisit this, and we are looking to get the biggest bang for the buck, believe me. So, yes, ma'am.
All right, I have a similar question. I'm Lori Lundberg, and I live in Section 2. I'm not looking at huge road maintenance, but there are so many leaves and debris on our road, like you can't even, you see the center of the road. And so does our community do any kind of sweeping off of the road? Because I think that might be causing to some of that erosion stuff, is all the debris that's covering a lot of the road.
Yeah, we don't. 75 miles of roads, we have a 9-man maintenance crew. We don't. There has been thought of getting a road sweeper, and to be quite honest, I nixed it because
the main roads look fine, but you go on those side roads and you can't even see the road sometimes, except for a little path. All year, not just now as the leaves are falling.
Yes, ma'am. All right, any other questions?
I am Rebecca Ennis. I'm on Holly Trail East, Section 9. I'm the one with the burglary issues.
Yes, ma'am.
Since the roads have gone in, I'm having my foundation be threatened by water that runs where it didn't used to run. It's coming off the roads, coming down, and I now have cracks on all four sides of my house in the outside brick, and the foundation is threatened. I wonder if somebody could look at that and look at the road and see what could happen to change it so that all that water, it didn't used to do this, but now it is. Since about 2015, this has been happening.
Okay, we can certainly come out. We will give it a look. As I tell everybody, no promises. We can control what we can control based on the areas that we have control over. Personal property, we can't really do a whole lot on, but it certainly merits an opportunity for us to come out. We'll evaluate it, we'll look at it, and we'll have a discussion.
Okay, so 50 years almost, and a newer problem. Wasn't there before the asphalt roads went in.
And last name is spelled E or I?
Ennis, like tennis without a T.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, I appreciate your time. Oh, yes, sir.
Tommy Sills, Section 4. First of all, thank you for the professional job you guys did on our road and the adjacent roads to that. My question is, I pay HOA dues, and I'm just wondering of the standards that are being kept as far as eyesores that we have within personal property. What is being done to make these people live up to the standards of what we expect here at Holly Lake Ranch? And some of those are not being done.
Yes, sir. Great question. We get this question a lot.
Yeah.
We can incentivize folks to do the right thing, but at the end of the day, it truly is that. So kind of our standard process is we notice that there's a violation, whether it's code, ARA, whatever it is. We go out and we have a conversation with them, not we, but Jerry and his folks. Go out and have a conversation with them. We give them 30 days to correct. We determine if it's curable or uncurable. We go through that process. At the 30 days, if they haven't fixed it from a verbal warning, then we issue them a written warning or citation if it's appropriate. And then it gets to the point of they're being fined, they're not paying it, and they elect not to pay it because they don't want to do it, or it's you can't tell me what to do, and it just escalates. It contributes to our bad debt. They lose rights and privileges across the ranch, which is why I say we incentivize folks to do the right thing, but a lot of times folks don't.
Well, what if it becomes a situation where it's a safety hazard, and I'm talking about a real safety hazard, and they don't, from what I understand, the one I'm speaking of does not live out here, so they don't really care about the safety of people out here, and it just keeps adding up to these collections that you're trying to get from them. I don't know what you can do.
If it's health and safety, there is a clause and provision in the, I think it's the rules and regs, that states for health and safety, we can reevaluate that and we can look at it from a different perspective and different scope. It's a lengthy process.
Yeah.
We've went through it in the past. There's one that we're in the process of looking at right now. So if it's one of those, please send me an email, let me know, and we'll evaluate it and see what we can do.
Okay, thank you, Adam.
Yes, sir. All right, thank you all.
All right. Thank you, Adam. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to consider the approval of the budget, maintenance fees, golf fees, storage fees, board restricted funds, all that kind of thing. There are going to be several motions. And we're going to start with the operating budget.
I make a motion to approve the 2024 operating budget with projected revenues $4,533,848. Projected expenses $5,091,440.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Okay, Ms. Vice President, I make a motion that we approve the maintenance fees for 2024, which is a $3 increase or a 1.91%, with a total of $159.76. With trash, that would be $175.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Any discussion amongst the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, for golf fees.
Madam Vice President, I move to approve the 2024 golf fees as presented.
Can we put that slide up there? So, sorry. There we go. Okay, as presented, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I make a second.
Any discussion amongst the board? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll talk about RV storage fees.
Mr. Vice President, I make a motion to change the indoor RV storage from $850 a year to $1,150 and leave the outdoor annual rate the same as it is now.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Any discussion amongst the board? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next, short-term rental fees.
Board restricted funds.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. Next is board restricted funds.
Madam Vice President, I move to approve the 2024 board restricted funds of $786,500 pending the approval of the member vote as previously mentioned.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're to short-term rentals.
Could y'all put that screen up, please? Okay. Madam Vice President, I make a motion that we increase the short-term rental fees 1.91%, the same as we did for the maintenance fees, with the numbers that are posted for viewing.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then the last motion is for the first quarter of 2024 expenditures for board restricted funds.
Mr. Vice President, I make a motion to approve first quarter board restricted funds, facility renovations, $30,000. 6-foot deck mower, $23,000. Holly Hall generator, $65,500. A F-350 truck, $45,000. And gate generators, $23,000 for a total of $186,500.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. No other business from our end. We will entertain questions and comments from property owners if you have anything else that hasn't been covered. Going once, going twice. Oh. Yes, ma'am, if you'll approach the microphone, please.
Belinda Flowers, Section 8. I don't have the agenda in front of me, so if this is the end, I want to get this question in. Is there any update on what's going on with the Silverleaf common areas, and that whole deal?
Nothing substantial, no. Internally, we're continuing to work the LOI. We've got a draft of that now, so it's at the committee level. We're looking at that to make recommendations to the board. But as far as getting it to a point where we're ready to take it to a vote, it's not there yet. Hopefully soon. The sale, I know the sale is coming up, and that's probably weighing on folks' mind. I've heard rumors of the snack shack closing and all of those things. We expect those things that are going to happen. Their timeline, as relayed to us, is going to be January 8th, and then 9th will be the closing date. they may incrementally start closing things down a little bit earlier. The comment was made, well, when we're out of Philly cheesesteaks, because that's where I go to get a Philly cheesesteak, when we're out, we're not going to order more. I'm like, well, I disagree with your position on this, but nonetheless. So we'll start to see that, but no major updates, no ma'am.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries, adjourned at 2:25 PM.